Brittany, the sound of coughing, thin and ragged, pulled me from a shallow sleep at 4:17 a.m. Not the monitor. Chloe had kicked it off her bed again. I was already moving, my body knowing the path from my room to hers in the dark. The hallway floor was cool under my feet. Her door was ajar, and the night light cast a weak, princess pink glow over her small form, curled into a tight ball. I pressed my lips to her forehead. Fire. Again. Baby, I whispered. Her eyes, too bright with fever, fluttered open. My throat hurts. Mommy. And my head is all buzzy. I know. Sweet pea. I know. The next hours were a blur of tepid baths, children's Tylenol that she struggled to swallow, and holding a cool cloth to her neck as she dozed fitfully against me. Mark's side of the bed remained empty and pristine. He'd crashed in the guest room to avoid getting sick. He'd said, the dawn crept in, gray and unforgiving. By 7 a.m., Chloe was finally in a deep, sweaty sleep, the fever broken for now. The pediatrician's office opened at 9. My body ached with weariness, but a different kind of energy, sharp and focused, took over. My baby was sick. She needed more than medicine. The kitchen was my sanctuary. Sunlight, real and strong now, streamed through the bay window over the sink. I ignored the empty coffee pot. First, the broth. I pulled the organic free-range chicken from the fridge, the one I'd been saving for a family dinner that never seemed to happen. Into the large Le Creuset pot it went, with celery, carrots, onions, a handful of peppercorns, and a bundle of thyme from the patio. I covered it with cold filtered water and set the flame to low. The gentle, promising simmer began, while the broth deepened over hours. I worked. I roasted salmon fillets with nothing but lemon, dill, and a kiss of olive oil, flaking it carefully to remove every microscopic bone. For the noodles, I didn't reach for the box stuff. I made a soft dough, rolling and cutting it into delicate, thin ribbons that would soothe, not scratch, her raw throat. The piece de resistance was the buttermilk pancakes. Not just any pancakes. Chloe's cloud cakes. Sifted flour, a touch of sugar, real buttermilk. I whipped the egg whites separately, folding them in at the end to make them impossibly light, the kind that almost dissolve on the tongue. I made a small stack, keeping them warm in the oven. The house filled with layers of scent, rich golden broth, the clean aroma of lemon and fish, the sweet, comforting smell of warm pancakes. It was a sensory promise, a mother's incantation. With each stir, each gentle fold of the batter, I was pouring a silent plea into the food. Get better. Feel loved. I am here. I plated it all at 12:30 p.m. A wide, shallow bowl held a nest of soft noodles, topped with the perfect flakes of salmon, all submerged in the luminous, fatty broth I'd skimmed to perfection. On a separate plate, 3 cloud cakes, with a tiny pot of warm maple syrup and a pat of melting butter. I set it on the counter, a masterpiece of care, and tiptoed to her room. She was awake, propped on pillows, her favorite stuffed unicorn under her arm. Her hair was damp at the temples, but her eyes were clearer. Hey, my brave girl, you feel up to a little magic? A tiny smile. I'm hungry. Triumph, warm and fierce, flooded my veins. I have a surprise. Stay right there. I practically floated back to the kitchen, already rehearsing in my head how I'd prop the tray on her lap, how I'd blow on the soup to cool it, the face she'd make with that first healing sip. The kitchen counter was empty. Not just the plate, the bowl, the syrup pot, gone. A cold washcloth lay where the bowl had been, a faint ring of condensation, the only evidence. My brain short-circuited. I blinked. I looked at the sink, empty, the dishwasher, clean and dry. I spun around, as if I'd somehow misremembered where I'd placed it. Mark? My voice sounded strange in the quiet house. He appeared in the doorway from the garage, wiping his hands on a towel. He had that look, the vaguely preoccupied, faintly self-satisfied look he got after fixing something minor. Hey, Chloe up? How's the patient? Where is it? I asked, my voice low. Where's what? The food, Mark. The bowl of soup, the salmon, the pancakes. I left it right here for Chloe. It's gone. Oh, he shrugged, a casual, infuriating lift of his shoulders. Yeah, I took it over to Elena's. The words didn't compute. They were nonsense syllables. You what? Elena. Next door. I ran into her when I was getting the mail. She looked a wreck, crying. Said it's the 6-month anniversary of Rob's passing, and it just hit her all over again. She hasn't eaten in 2 days, so I brought her the food. It smelled amazing. By the way, you really outdid yourself. Silence, a roaring, white noise silence filled my head. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the distant chirp of a bird, the frantic thud of my own heart. I started, but my throat closed. I had to force the words out, each one a shard of glass. You took the food I spent 5 hours making, for our sick daughter, who has a 102-degree fever, and you gave it to the neighbor. He finally registered my tone. The placid expression flickered, replaced by mild defensiveness. Brittany, come on, don't be like that. The woman is grieving. She's alone. Chloe's just got a bug. She'll be fine. Elena's in real pain. It was an act of basic human kindness. Basic human kindness. I repeated, the words flat and dead. Yes. What? You'd rather I let her sit there, alone in that big house, sobbing and starving? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? The phrase hung in the air between us. Toxic. What's wrong with me? The whisper escalated into a shout I couldn't control. Our child is sick. I haven't slept. I cooked for 5 hours for her. That wasn't just food. Mark, that was everything I had left. And you just waltzed in and gave it away to the pretty widow next door without a second thought. Keep your voice down, he hissed, stepping closer. And don't call her that. It's disgusting. You're being jealous and paranoid. And it's ugly. She needed a hot meal. Chloe can have a can of soup. She won't know the difference. Something in me snapped. A clean, final break. Get out. What? Get out of my kitchen. Go back to your grieving widow. See if she has a can of soup for you. His face flushed red. You are unbelievable. You have no empathy. Brittany, none. This is exactly why I had to do it. You live in this little bubble with the kids, and you have no concept of the real world, of other people's suffering. It's just you and your perfect, curated little life. Well, guess what? The world doesn't revolve around your chicken soup. We were screaming now, our faces inches apart. Years of quiet resentment, of missed date nights, of him working later and later, of me carrying the entire mental load of our family. IT all erupted through this one. Grotesque fissure. The world doesn't revolve around your sick daughter. Is that it? I shot back. Is that the real world? Mark? Where a stranger's performative grief is more important than your own child's fever. Performative? Jesus Christ. Listen to yourself. She's a wreck. And Chloe is sick. She asked for me. She asked for my food. And you stole it from her. You are her father. How dare you? The slam of the front door cut through our fury. Heavy footsteps. Backpack hitting the floor. Liam stood at the entrance to the kitchen. His tall, lanky frame tense. At 16, he was all sharp angles and simmering intensity. A carbon copy of Mark at that age, but with my eyes. His gaze swept from my tear-streaked, furious face to Mark's apoplectic one. What's going on? His voice was carefully neutral, but his eyes were on me. I could hear you from the driveway. You're gonna wake up Chloe. Your mother. Mark spat, seizing on an audience, is having a meltdown because I did a decent thing for a suffering human being. Liam's brow furrowed. Huh, Chloe's sick, I said, my voice raw. I made her special food. Dad took it and gave it to Ms. Elena next door. Liam's expression went from confused to utterly blank, a mask that scared me more than his anger. He looked at his father. You did what? Elena is having a very hard day. Son, a real crisis. Your sister has the flu. It's not comparable. Did you ask Mom? Liam's question was quiet, deadly. It was just sitting there. I didn't think it was a big deal. Since when do we hoard food in this family when someone is in need? Since the person in need is your daughter, Liam said, his voice low and shaking. You didn't even make it. Mom did. For Chloe, what is wrong with you? Don't you start with me. Mark warned, pointing a finger. I'm still your father. Then act like it. Liam exploded, the controls shattering. Go look at her. She's burning up. And you gave her dinner to the neighbor? Are you kidding me? What? Is she gonna die if she doesn't get Mom's salmon? Is that the crisis? You watch your tone. Liam James. Or what? Liam took a step forward. And for a terrifying second, I thought it would come to blows. You'll give my dinner away too? Both of you. Stop. I wedged myself between them, a hand on Liam's heaving chest. Liam, baby, stop. I looked at Mark, all the fight draining out of me, replaced by a cold, clear certainty. You need to leave. Now. Go for a drive. Go anywhere. Just go. Mark stared at us. At the united front we suddenly presented. His jaw worked. Fine. I'm the villain. For trying to be a decent person. Enjoy your selfish little party. He snatched his keys from the hook by the garage door and slammed it behind him. The silence that followed was seismic. Liam's breath slowly evened out. He looked down at me, and the anger in his eyes melted into something worse. A deep, wounded understanding. Is she okay? Chloe? She's sleeping. Or she was. I sagged against the counter. She's hungry. Liam, I have nothing to give her. Yeah, you do. He walked to the pantry, a young man on a mission. He pulled out a box of Annie's mac and cheese. I'll make this. It's her second favorite. He filled a pot with water, his movements brisk and efficient. Then he paused, his back to me. He's done stuff like this before. You know, not this bad, but little things. Forgetting her recitals, missing my games, always with some excuse about work, or traffic, or helping someone. He turned, and his eyes were old. It's her, isn't it? The neighbor. The cold certainty in my gut spread. I don't know. I think you do. He went back to cooking. I stood there, useless, in the ruins of my morning. My phone, sitting on the wireless charger on the counter, buzzed. A text notification lit up the screen. It was Mark's phone. He must have been charging it here earlier. The preview text was visible. Elena, thank you again. My hero, you saved me today. The soup was divine, like a hug from the inside. Can't wait to see you tonight. My beta told. XO. The world narrowed to that screen. The cheesy, heart-festooned emoji after XO seemed to pulse. My hero. Can't wait to see you tonight. My beta told. Liam was stirring the macaroni, his shoulders tight with protective fury. My daughter was asleep upstairs, hungry and sick, and in my hand was the proof that the chicken soup was never about charity. It was a transaction, an offering to his other life. The cold inside me hardened into diamond. It was no longer hurt. It was intelligence. It was strategy. Liam, I said, my voice strangely calm. Yeah, Mom, don't say anything to your father about this. Not a word. He looked over, saw my face, and gave a slow, grim nod. Okay. I picked up my phone. I didn't open the text. I simply took a screenshot. Then I swiped the notification away. The screen went dark, reflecting my own face pale, tired, but with eyes that were no longer bewildered. They were seeing clearly for the first time in years. The water boiled over on the stove. Liam cursed softly, turning down the flame. The mundane sound brought me back. I had a sick child to care for, a loyal son to feed, and a war to plan. Let me finish that. Honey, I said, taking the spoon from his hand. Go sit with your sister. Tell her her dinner is almost ready. The cold diamond in my chest didn't melt. It sat there, a perfect, hard center of clarity. I moved through the next 48 hours on autopilot, fueled by pure purpose. Chloe's fever broke for good. The mac and cheese was consumed. I called the pediatrician, administered antibiotics, read stories, and changed sweat damp sheets. I smiled. I hugged. I functioned. And I observed. Mark returned that first night, after Liam was in his room and Chloe was asleep. He moved with the cautious heaviness of someone expecting a trap. He found me in the living room, not watching the TV, just sitting in the dark. Brittany, he began, his voice a blend of contrition and defiance. Look, about earlier, I'm sorry for how I said it, but not for helping someone. I hope you can see the difference. I kept my voice soft, deliberately weary. I'm just exhausted. Mark, Chloe's been so sick. I haven't slept. I overreacted. The lie tasted sweet. You're right. I've been in a bubble. The shift threw him. He'd braced for a fight. My surrender disarmed him. Oh, well, good. I'm glad you see that. It's a tough situation. She's all alone over there. I can't even imagine. I murmured, pouring every ounce of fake sympathy I could muster into the words. It must be so hard for her. He brightened, sensing an opening. It is. You have no idea. The loneliness. He caught himself, cleared his throat. Anyway, I'm going to bed. Long day tomorrow. Good night, I said to his retreating back. The performance had begun. My first move was reconnaissance. Not dramatic. Cloak and dagger stuff. Suburban stuff. I took walks. Pushed Chloe in her stroller around the block long after she'd recovered. Her little face peeking out from a sun hat. I noted the silver Lexus SUV in Elena's driveway, that last year's model. The perfectly manicured lawn. Serviced by the same company we used. The fresh flower boxes under the windows. Bursting with expensive petunias. The house, a slightly larger, more ornate version of our own colonial, didn't scream grieving widow. It screamed curated perfection. At the mailbox, I timed it. Mrs. Henderson, from 3 doors down, a woman whose primary hobby was knowing everyone's business, was deadheading her roses. Afternoon. Brittany, how's that sweet Chloe feeling? She called, her eyes sharp behind her bifocals. Much better. Thanks. Eleanor. Good, good. Saw Mark over at the Miller place the other day. Such a shame about Rob. She didn't pause for breath. Though, between you and me, that one's bounced back quick. Saw a U-Haul at the house last week. I froze, the mail in my hand. A U-Haul? Oh, not moving in. Moving out. Her sister, I think, came and took a load of Rob's things. Sports gear, tools, that ugly recliner he loved. Elena said it was too painful to have them around. Eleanor leaned closer, lowering her voice. Strange, though, painful. But she's had a different gentleman caller helping with the garbage cans every week since February. Rob died in September. 6 months of official grieving. For months of someone taking out her trash. How neighborly, I said, my smile feeling painted on. Very. Eleanor said, her meaning clear. She wasn't telling me this out of kindness. She was depositing information, waiting to see what interest it would accrue. I was now an investment. My next source was the HOA security feed. As a member of the Welcome Committee, a title that involved sending 1 email a year, I had a legitimate, if flimsy, reason to visit the management office. I brought cookies. The bored, teenage son of the property manager, Todd, was manning the desk, glued to his phone. Hey, Cody, brownie? I slid the container over. He took 3. Thanks. Mrs. Carter. Ugh, don't call me that. Makes me sound like my mother-in-law. Brittany's fine. I leaned on the counter, adopting a conspiratorial tone. Listen, I'm trying to sort out a weird thing. Someone dinged my car door in the clubhouse lot last week. A silver SUV. You know if the cameras out there caught anything? He shrugged. Mouth full. Dunno. The system's kinda lame. Only keeps stuff for like 2 weeks. And it's motion activated. So if they just walked, it might not trigger. Could you maybe check for me? Around last Thursday? I'd be so grateful. I'd hate to have to file a police report and get everyone involved. I let my eyes go wide and helpless. Cody sighed, the put-upon tech expert. Fine. Which camera? How about the one that covers Sycamore Lane? Near my house? That's the main cut-through to the clubhouse, right? He clicked and typed. Grainy black and white footage appeared on his monitor, divided into quadrants. He fast-forwarded. There it was. Our street. My house. Elena's house. Mark's car pulling into her driveway, not at night, but at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. A Tuesday, he'd told me, he had back-to-back meetings in the city. He got out, carrying what looked like a grocery bag. He didn't go to the front door. He used a key on the side door to the garage. He was inside for 47 minutes. He emerged, without the bag, adjusting his shirt. My stomach turned to ice. I pointed, my finger steady. Pause there. Is there a way to save that clip? For the insurance? Cody gave me a look that said he knew this had nothing to do with car dings, but the brownies had bought his complicity. I can email it to you. The file's huge. That would be a lifesaver. Cody, truly. The video landed in my inbox 10 minutes later. I didn't watch it again. I saved it in a new folder on my laptop. Password protected. I labeled it evidence_01. The puzzle pieces were there, but they formed a sickening, obvious picture. I needed context. I needed the story behind the devastated widow facade. Chloe's return to school provided it. The spring fling parent-teacher mixer. A chaotic affair in the school gym, with stale cookies and weak lemonade. I usually avoided these like the plague. This time, I went armed. I spotted Elena immediately. She was holding court near the punch bowl, wearing a demure cream sweater and pearls, receiving a stream of sympathetic pats on the arm. She looked the part, pale, delicate, a faint, brave smile plastered on her face. I felt a surge of such pure, undiluted rage. I had to look away. My target was a woman named Anya Petrova. She was Noah's friend Leo's mother. Anya was a no-nonsense cardiac nurse with a thick Russian accent and a zero-tolerance policy for bullshit. We'd bonded years ago over a mutual disdain for the school's gluten-free, sugar-free, fun-free bake sales. I made my way over to where she was scowling at a plate of rice cakes. Anya, thank God, a sane person. Brittany, this food is criminal. It is an insult. She eyed me. You look tired. The little one is better? She is. It was a rough week. I heard. Her sharp eyes flicked over to the punch bowl group, then back to me. I also hear your husband is being very supportive. There it was. The opening. He's trying to be a good neighbor. I said, keeping my tone neutral. It's a terrible situation. Anya snorted. A short, derisive sound. Terrible. Yes. She leaned in. My Leo. He is at that house for playdate many times. Last year, before the tragedy, she made air quotes around the word. He comes home. He tells me, Mama, Noah's parents are yelling again. The man is crying. This is months before the heart attack. The air left my lungs. Rob was crying, according to my 6-year-old, who has no reason to lie. The man, he was unhappy. The woman, she glanced at Elena again. Her expression pure disdain. She is a performance. Always. The grieving widow. Please. The marriage was dead before the husband. She had friends. Rob found texts. Big fight. Leo saw the man throw a suitcase into the car. This was in July. 2 months before Rob died. He'd moved out. But the funeral, I whispered. She was inconsolable. The eulogy was award-winning. Anya finished dryly. I have worked in hospital for 15 years. I know real grief. I know guilt grief. I know show grief. She is category 3. She put a firm hand on my arm. Your husband. He is a fool. And she is a spider. You be careful. Spiders eat the foolish. I stood there, reeling. The narrative I'd been fed, that the sudden, tragic loss, the shattered, loving wife that was a complete fabrication. Their marriage had been over. Rob had likely died of a broken heart as much as a cardiac one. And Mark was the new friend, the new sucker. I drove home, Anya's words echoing in my head. A spider. He is a fool. The diamond of anger in my chest grew edges, sharp and precise. This wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of Rob's memory. It was Mark playing hero in a tragedy he didn't understand, manipulated by a professional victim. I found Liam in the kitchen after school, demolishing a bag of chips. We need to talk. Your room. He followed me, instantly alert. I closed the door and told him everything. The text, the security footage, what Anya had said. I showed him the video on my laptop. Watching his father let himself into that house, in the middle of a workday, felt like a violation. Liam's face hardened into a mask. So he's cheating, and she's a liar. His voice was flat. It looks that way. What are you going to do? I'm going to find out exactly what I'm dealing with. And I need your help. But only if you're sure. This is ugly. Liam. And he's still your father. Liam's laugh was bitter. A father doesn't do that. A father doesn't choose some random woman over his sick kid. What do you need? And so, Operation Watchdog was born. Liam's name, his idea. It consisted of him and his two most discreet friends, Marcus and Jaden. Their mission, passive surveillance. They were teenagers with bikes, phones, and the perfect camouflage of suburban boredom. They'd hang out at the park that bordered our back fences. They'd shoot hoops in Marcus's driveway, which had a direct sight line to Elena's front door. They noted comings and goings. They used their phone cameras, zooming in from a distance. Their reports were delivered in hushed tones after dinner, or via encrypted group chat. Liam, for 15 p.m., his car in her driveway, still there at 7 p.m. when we left for pizza. Jaden, UPS guy delivered a big box to her house. Looked like a patio furniture label. Heavy. Your dad came out and helped her carry it inside, wearing like weekend clothes. On a Wednesday, Marcus saw her this morning getting the mail, not crying, laughing on the phone. Hung up when she saw me looking. It was childish. It was also terrifyingly effective. We had a log, dates, times, durations, the final piece, the one that shifted this from a sordid personal drama to a tangible, financial betrayal, came from our bank account. I rarely logged into the joint account Mark managed for household bills. I had my own for groceries and kid stuff. One night, after Mark was snoring in the guest room, he'd made it his permanent base, citing not wanting to disturb my sleep. I logged in. I scrolled through the credit card statement, groceries, gas, Amazon. Then, a charge that made me stop. Serenity Day Spa Medispa, $385. Dated 2 weeks ago. I hadn't been to a spa in years. I clicked the details. It included a signature hydrofacial and Botox, one area. My blood ran cold. Then hot. I knew that spa. It was the fancy one in the new plaza. The one Elena had mentioned in passing at a block party, saying she missed her little treatments since Rob's passing. I cross-referenced the date with Liam's log. Liam, March 12th. Dad left work early for a dentist appointment, picked her up at 2 p.m. Her car stayed in driveway. He hadn't taken her to the dentist. He'd taken her to get Botox, paid for with money from the account that funded Chloe's ballet lessons and Liam's soccer gear. The diamond in my chest ignited. It was no longer just cold clarity. It was a burning star of fury. This was the line. The stolen soup was an insult. The lies were a betrayal. But this? Using our family's resources, the security meant for our children, to fund his girlfriend's cosmetic procedures while his daughter was homesick? I took a screenshot. I saved it to the folder. Evidence _07. Spot A. I walked to Liam's room. He was at his desk, pretending to do homework. I didn't speak. I just turned my laptop and showed him the statement. He read it. His jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. He paid for her face. The disgust in his whisper was profound. It appears so. What are you going to do? Mom. The question was no longer one of curiosity, but of strategy. He was my lieutenant, awaiting orders. I looked at my son, this brave, angry young man who had appointed himself the protector of his family. The last of my hesitation evaporated. We're not just watching anymore, I said, my voice quiet and steady. It's time to start planning. He wants to play the benevolent hero, the community saint. Let's give him a stage. A really big one. I had the receipts. Now, I needed a venue. And as fate would have it, the invitation landed in my inbox the very next morning. It was from the head of the Oak Ridge Valley Community Board, Cynthia Banks. Dear Brittany, we're planning the annual Spring Charity Gala to benefit the Children's Hospital, and we desperately need your organizational magic on the planning committee. Your work on the Fall Festival was legendary. Please say you'll help us make this the best one yet. I smiled, a real smile for the first time in weeks. I hit reply. Dear Cynthia, I'd be absolutely delighted to help. In fact, I have some ideas already. Let's make this a gala no one will ever forget. The Oak Ridge Valley Spring Charity Gala was the social cornerstone of our suburban calendar, held at the country club. It was a night of sequin gowns, rubber chicken dinners, and fiercely competitive silent auctions, all in the name of the Children's Hospital. In years past, I'd viewed it with mild dread at another obligation, another expensive dress. This year, I saw it for what it was, a stage, a beautifully lit, publicly funded stage with an open bar and 300 eyewitnesses. My position on the planning committee granted me a potent form of social alchemy. I could shape reality. Cynthia Banks, the committee chair, was a well-meaning dynamo obsessed with themes and centerpieces. I became her most invaluable lieutenant. Cynthia, the Neighbors Helping Neighbors theme is inspired. I gushed during our first Zoom planning session, especially after the past few difficult years. Wouldn't it be powerful to have a short video, real stories of kindness from within our own community? It would personalize the whole evening. Cynthia's eyes lit up. Brittany, that's genius. A human interest piece. We could show it right before the keynote speech. Do you think you could manage that? I have some ideas, I said, my smile serene. I know just the stories to highlight. My first story was, of course, Mark and Elena. I framed it as a touching tale of compassion. I approached Mark in the kitchen a few nights later, my tablet in hand, wearing an expression of contrite optimism. Mark, I need to ask you a favor. For the gala. He looked up from his phone, wary. Yeah, I'm putting together a video for the Neighbors Helping Neighbors segment. Cynthia loved the idea, and I wanted to include you. And Elena, his posture shifted from wary to confused intrigue. What? Why? I gestured with the tablet, playing the earnest wife, because what you did taking her that food when she was low, it's exactly the kind of quiet, personal kindness the theme is about. It's a beautiful story. I was so wrong to be upset. I was stressed about Chloe, and I took it out on you. This is my way of making it right, of showing you Dot and the whole community that I support you, that we're a team. I watched the conflict play out on his face. Suspicion, then flattered vanity, then a glint of triumph. He saw a public reconciliation, a vindication of his narrative, the selfless hero getting his due, with the jealous wife publicly eating crow. You want to film us? He asked, trying to sound reluctant. Just a short interview. You and Elena, talking about the importance of community support in tough times. It'll be tasteful, uplifting. He pretended to think it over. Well, if it's for the charity and if you're sure, I'm sure, I said, laying a hand on his arm. The gesture felt alien. I'll reach out to Elena, if that's okay. Girl to girl? Smooth things over? The glint in his eye turned to a gleam. This was better than he'd dreamed. Not just acceptance, but facilitation. That I would be great. Brit, really great. Elena was easier. My email to her was a masterpiece of faux humble reconciliation. Elena, I owe you a massive apology. I was under immense stress with Chloe's illness, and I behaved terribly. Mark has helped me see how myopic I was being. Your strength is an inspiration. I'm helping with the gala video, celebrating community kindness, and I can think of no better example than Mark's support of you. Would you be willing to share a few thoughts on camera? It would mean the world to me, and to the cause. Brittany, she replied within the hour, dripping with performative grace. Brittany, your email means so much. Of course, I forgive you. Grief makes us all act in ways we don't recognize. I'd be honored to participate. Let's heal together. Elena, the interview was conducted by a film student I hired, a friend of a friend who asked no questions for cash. I gave him a list of prompts. Tell us about a time a neighbor's kindness made a difference. How does community help us through personal tragedy? I sat in the corner of Elena's perfectly decorated living room, watching. Mark wore his best caring professional expression, voice dropping to a sincere baritone. When Rob passed, we all felt it, but seeing Elena struggle, it was a reminder that we can't just live next to each other. We have to live for each other. Elena, perched on her cream sofa, dabbed delicately at dry eyes with a tissue. Mark was a lifeline. In my darkest hour, he didn't just see my pain. He acted. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. It said, "You are not alone." She looked directly at him, a soulful gaze I'm sure they practiced. That's the spirit of Oak Ridge Valley. I nodded along, a supportive smile plastered on my face. Keep talking. I thought, give me more footage. The raw tape was nauseating, but it was gold. I spent evenings in my home office, headphones on, with expensive editing software I'd borrowed the license for from Mark's work laptop. I crafted a 3-minute segment. The first 2.5 minutes were pure. Saccharine tribute, soft piano music, shots of them smiling sadly, speaking about compassion. It was perfectly edited to make them look like saints. The final 30 seconds were where the music would subtly shift, growing slightly more ominous. The video would cut to real-life shots of neighborhood kindness. Someone mowing a lawn, kids selling lemonade. Seamlessly integrated into this montage would be 3 very specific clips, each less than 2 seconds, flashed so fast the audience might doubt their own eyes. The first, a grainy still from the HOA security footage of Mark using a key to enter Elena's side door. The second, a screenshot of the text message. Can't wait to see you tonight. My bit told. EXO the third, the credit card charge for Serenity Day Spa, with the amount clearly visible. I'd end on a close-up of Elena's face from the interview, a single, perfect tear, digitally enhanced, rolling down her cheek, followed by the gala's hashtag Oak Ridge Cares. The cognitive dissonance would be the weapon. Let them wonder. Let them gossip. The other part of the trap was the seating chart. As head of decor and community outreach, I had final say. I placed Mark and Elena at table 4, right in the center of the room. I sat myself, Liam, and Cynthia Banks at table 1, on the raised dais with the podium, giving me a panoramic view. I also, as a thoughtful touch, invited Anya Petrova and her husband, placing them at the adjacent table 5. Anya had agreed with a grim, knowing nod. I will bring popcorn, she'd said. The night arrived. I wore a simple, stunning black sheath dress, armor. Liam, in a suit that made him look heartbreakingly grown, was my silent escort. His jaw set. Mark had left separately, saying he had to help Elena with her nerves. He'd be meeting her there. The country club ballroom glittered. The Neighbors Helping Neighbors theme manifested in rustic chic centerpieces and photos of community events. I worked the room, air kissing, smiling, the picture of a committed committee member. I saw Mark arrive with Elena on his arm. She wore a blush pink gown that screamed fragile blossom. He looked puffed up, proud. They made their way to their table, receiving a smattering of sympathetic and approving nods. Dinner was served. Speeches droned. The silent auction closed. Cynthia took the podium. And now, before we hear from our wonderful keynote speaker, a little reminder of why we're here. Not just for the big donations, but for the small, everyday acts that make Oak Ridge Valley a true community. Please enjoy this short film, curated by our own Brittany Carter. The lights dimmed. The soft piano music began. On the giant screen, smiling faces of neighbors helping with groceries, walking dogs. Then, Mark and Elena appeared. A respectful, appreciative murmur went through the crowd. They looked good on camera. The interview played out at the scripted lines about grief and kindness. I watched the audience. People were nodding, some dabbing at their eyes. Mark had reached over and patted Elena's hand on screen. A gentle, supportive gesture. In the darkened ballroom, the real Mark squeezed the real Elena's shoulder. She leaned into him. The piano music ever so slightly changed key, becoming a hair more dissonant. The montage of real-life kindness began. A shot of the Johnsons' teenage son shoveling old Mrs. Miller's walk. Kids with a lemonade stand. Then, flash, a grainy, black and white image of a man at a door. A few people squinted. Flash, a text message on a phone screen. The words large and clear for a fraction of a second. A low, confused whisper rippled through a few tables. Flash, a credit card statement line. The music swelled to a saccharine conclusion, and Elena's tear-streaked, close-up face filled the screen, followed by hashtag Oak Ridge Cares. The room erupted in applause, but it was scattered, confused. The people who had seen the flashes were turning to their neighbors, whispering urgently, "Did you see that? What was that? Was that Mark?" The majority, who hadn't processed the quick cuts, clapped politely for the touching tribute. The lights came up. Mark was smiling, accepting a few pats on the back. Elena was demurely looking at her napkin, but I saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He'd seen the flashes. He knew. Cynthia, beaming, took the microphone again. "Wasn't that beautiful? Let's give another round of applause for Mark and Elena, for embodying our community spirit." The applause was more concerted this time. Mark stood, gave a modest wave. Elena gave a fragile, beautiful smile. It was her moment. Then she stood up. She wasn't supposed to. This wasn't in the script. But the performer in her couldn't resist the spotlight. She floated to the podium, gently taking the microphone from a startled Cynthia. "If I could just say a word?" Her voice was a breathy, amplified whisper. "Of course, dear," Cynthia said, baffled but charmed. Elena turned to the crowd, her eyes shining with manufactured tears. "Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful tribute. It's been a difficult journey." She paused, collecting herself. The room was utterly silent. Losing Rob, it shattered my world. In those dark days, the kindness of people like Mark, she gestured to him, was a light. But kindness, sometimes it draws negativity. She looked directly at me, her expression morphing into one of pained forgiveness. "Brittany, I forgive you. I forgive you for the anger, the jealousy, the attempts to undermine this pure friendship. I know your heart is hurting, too, but trying to taint this to insert ugly, fabricated things into a beautiful night for charity." She let a real tear fall now, one of perfect, wounded indignation. It's beneath you, and it's beneath this community. We're better than this. A gasp went through the crowd. All eyes swiveled to me. I saw it on their faces. Shock, pity for her, dawning suspicion towards me. She'd taken my trap and tried to spring it on me first, framing herself as the victim of my malicious sabotage. Mark was staring at her, a mix of horror and admiration. I didn't stand. I didn't raise my voice. I simply picked up the small, wireless clicker for the slideshow that was sitting on our table. I pressed a button. On the giant screen behind Elena, the touching video vanished, replaced by a single, crisp, full-screen image. The security footage, still of Mark using the key. The time and date stamp were clear. The room froze. I spoke, my voice calm, amplified by the microphone I'd kept on our table. Fabricated. Elena, that's the HOA security feed. Time-stamped February 12th. 2:17 p.m. A Tuesday. Mark told me he was in client meetings in the city that day. I clicked. The text message, screenshot, appeared. This was on Mark's phone. The day he gave my sick daughter's homemade meal to you. Click. The spa receipt. This is from our joint checking account. A signature, hydrofacial, and Botox for you. Paid for while my daughter was home with a 104-degree fever. The silence was absolute, electric with collective shock. Elena's face had gone from triumph to ashen horror. You faked those. You're sick, she screeched, the breathy whisper gone. The bank records and security logs are easy to verify. Elena, I said, my voice still quiet, carrying in the dead silence. And I have a witness who can speak to the state of your marriage to Rob before his tragic passing, who saw him move out in July, who heard the fights. Anya Petrova stood up at her table. She didn't need a microphone. Her nurse's projection filled the room. It is true. My son was there. The marriage was over. The man was heartbroken. She waved a hand at Elena. This performance is disrespectful to his memory. The crowd's energy shifted violently. The whispers became a roar. Elena looked like a cornered animal, her eyes darting to Mark for salvation. He was staring at the table, his face a mask of humiliation and panic. Then, a new voice, young and cracking with tension, came from the back of the ballroom. Liam. He was standing by the service entrance. And next to him, small and confused in a too-big suit, was Noah, Elena's 9-year-old son. Liam had a hand on the boy's shoulder. He held up his phone, tapping it. His voice, amplified through a speakerphone app, wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise. Noah, tell everyone what you told me about Mark sleeping over. Noah, bewildered by the crowd, looked at his mother's terrified face, then at Mark. His lower lip trembled, but Liam gave his shoulder a squeeze. It's okay, buddy. Just tell the truth. The boy's high, clear voice echoed in the hushed room. Mark sleeps in Mom's room. Sometimes when I get up for water, he has a toothbrush in our bathroom. Mom said it's a secret, a special game. The dam broke. The gasps were no longer whispers, but explosions of sound. Elena made a strangled sound and crumpled, not gracefully, but in a genuine heap of ruined fabric and shattered pretense. Mark finally stood, his chair screeching. That's enough. This is a private matter. Yuval. He looked at the sea of disgusted, avid faces. Brittany, what have you done? I met his gaze across the ruined gala. I didn't answer him. I looked at Cynthia, who was pale and gripping the podium. I believe the keynote speaker is next, I said, and turned off my microphone. The rest was chaos. Cynthia, flustered, tried to introduce the baffled keynote speaker over the rising din. People were shouting, some at Mark, some at the sobbing Elena, some just in sheer, scandalized delight. Cell phones were out. The hashtag Oak Ridge Cares hashtag was getting new. Explosive content. Liam led Noah away, back to the sitter waiting in the lobby. I watched Mark try to help a hysterical Elena to her feet, only to be slapped away by her as she screamed. This is your fault. You and your pathetic, vengeful wife. I collected my clutch. Anya met me at the edge of the dais, her expression one of grim satisfaction. The spider is caught in her own web. She said, "The night is young." I replied. I walked out of the ballroom, my head high, the echoes of the scandal washing over me. The trap had been sprung. The performance was over. The war, however, had just entered a new, and very public, phase. The fallout from the gala was swift, vicious, and deliciously public. Oak Ridge Valley didn't have a town square, but it had Facebook, Nextdoor, and group texts that burned with the energy of 1,000 suns. By morning, the scandal was the only topic of conversation. The official charity video was pulled, but the damage was done. Dozens of phone recordings of Elena's meltdown and Noah's damning testimony were clipped, shared, memed. The hashtag OakRidgeCares hashtag was co-opted into a mockery, flooded with jokes about neighborly support and community outreach. Mark didn't come home that night. I hadn't expected him to. At 3:17 a.m., my phone lit up with a text. "Mark, I hope you're happy. You've humiliated a grieving woman and destroyed my reputation. I'm staying at Elena's. She needs stability and support, which is clearly something you're incapable of providing. We'll talk about the kids when you've calmed down." I read it, the cold diamond in my chest now a glacier. I didn't reply. I screenshot it and added it to the folder. Evidence_12. Abandonment. Calming down wasn't on the agenda. Action was. My first call at 9 a.m. was to a locksmith. The second was to Sarah Chin, a family law attorney whose name I'd gotten from a discreet, grateful mother in a private support group years ago. Sarah's reputation was the barracuda. I needed teeth. Sarah's office was all cool glass and steel, a stark contrast to the emotional wreckage I brought in. I laid it out for her, not as a weeping wife, but as a CEO presenting a hostile takeover case. I provided the folder, the text messages, the security footage, the bank statements, the spa receipt, the audio recording of Mark dismissing Chloe's illness, the post-gala text. I played the clip of Noah's small voice saying, "Mark sleeps in Mom's room." Sarah listened, her sharp eyes scanning the documents, her expression unchanging. When I finished, she steepled her fingers. "This is a strong position. Adultery is a factor in our state for asset division and, more importantly, in the court of public opinion, which judges do notice, his removal from the marital home, especially to the home of the affair partner, and his text indicating he's providing stability to her over his own children, is a significant misstep. The financial diversion of marital funds for her personal benefit is clear-cut. The neglect allegation regarding your daughter's illness is powerful for custody. I want full custody, the house, and I want to make it hurt," I said, my voice even. A slight, professional smile touched her lips. "Pain is a byproduct of the process. Mrs. Carter, our goal is a favorable settlement. Your husband's public relations disaster gives us considerable leverage. He will be motivated to avoid a trial, but we must move quickly and strategically. First, we file for a temporary restraining order based on the hostile environment and his erratic behavior. It will get him legally removed from the house and establish a status quo favorable to you. Then, we file for divorce and temporary orders regarding custody and support. Do it," I said, while Sarah worked her legal magic. I worked on the home front. Liam and Chloe became my priority, and my partners in a quiet campaign of reclamation. Chloe, still physically tender but emotionally perceptive, had heard the whispers at school. "Is Daddy not coming home because he loves the sad lady more than us?" she asked one morning over cereal, her big eyes serious. The question was a knife to the heart, but I kept my voice steady. "No, baby. Daddy made some very bad, very selfish choices. It has nothing to do with you or Liam. You are both so loved. This is his problem, and he has to live somewhere else while the grown-ups figure it out. This is still your home. Always. Liam, for his part, had taken on the role of man of the house with a grim intensity that broke my heart. He changed the codes on the garage door, checked the locks at night, and screened my calls. The anger he'd shown at the gala had hardened into a silent, protective fury. The temporary restraining order was served to Mark at Elena's house 2 days after the gala. It barred him from coming within 500 feet of our home, the kids' schools, or my workplace. It gave me exclusive use of the house and the minivan. It mandated temporary child support. His response was a furious, spittle-flecked voicemail my lawyer advised me to save. "You vicious bitch. A restraining order? On what grounds? I've never laid a hand on you. You're tearing this family apart to punish me for having a heart. You're going to pay for this. Brittany, you and that shark lawyer of yours." I played it for Sarah on speakerphone. "Excellent," she said dryly. He just added harassing communication to the file. "Keep them coming." The new locks and the legal barrier created a fragile peace. For a week, the house was ours again. The ghost of Mark's presence did his running shoes by the door. His stale cologne in the guest room that was slowly exorcised. I started packing his things into cardboard boxes. A therapeutic, physical purging. Then Chloe spiked a fever again. It was a minor rebound, the pediatrician said, but it came with a deep, rattling cough that scared her. The doctor prescribed a strong cough syrup with codeine, warning me to use it sparingly. It's potent stuff, just at bedtime to let her rest. That night, after giving Chloe her first measured dose and settling her into a fitful sleep, I went to the bathroom to put the bottle in the high cabinet, locked with a child-proof latch we'd installed when Liam was young. I reached for it on the shelf where I'd left it. It was gone. A cold finger of dread traced my spine. I searched the shelf, the counter, the floor. Nothing. I woke Liam, who helped me tear the bathroom apart. "No bottle. Did you move it?" I asked, my voice tight. "No, I haven't touched it. Maybe Dad," he trailed off, his face darkening. "He hasn't been here. The locks were changed. The order." But a sickening thought formed. I ran to the garage. The door to the house was locked, but the external garage door. I checked the digital log on the opener. It showed an entry code used 3 days ago, before the locks were changed. Mark's old code. He'd come into the garage. The door from the garage into the house was locked now, but the interior garage door, the one that led into the laundry room. I'd been doing load after load of Chloe's sickbed linens. Had I left it unlocked? Just for a moment? I felt violated. He'd slunk in like a thief. To do what? Get more of his things? But his boxes were untouched. My eyes fell on the small, wall-mounted safe where we kept passports and a bit of emergency cash. It was closed, but the dust around it was smudged. He knew the combination. I spun the dial, opened it. The cash was there, the passports, and my grandmother's pearl necklace, which I never wore, but my emergency Xanax prescription, a bottle of maybe 10 pills left from a panic attack 2 years ago, was gone. He hadn't come for his things. He'd come for drugs, my daughter's prescription cough syrup, my old anxiety meds. I called Sarah, my hand shaking with a new, different kind of rage. He broke in. He took Chloe's prescription cough medicine and some of my old pills. Sarah's tone was immediately sharper. "Did you call the police?" "Not yet. I have proof he was in the garage. The log, but not in the house. Call them." Now, a violation of the TRO is a violation of a court order. It's a crime. And stealing controlled substances? Even better. File a report. Then call me back. I hung up and dialed 911. "I'd like to report a burglary and theft of prescription medication," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. The officer who came was young, polite. He took my statement, reviewed the garage door log, noted the untouched boxes. "So you think your husband, who is subject to a restraining order, used an old code to enter the garage, then entered the house through an unlocked interior door to steal medication? I do. The medicine was for our sick daughter. It has codeine in it. He whistled softly, typing into his tablet. And your own medication. Alprazolam. From an old prescription. Ma'am, does your husband have a history of substance abuse? I almost laughed. No, but his girlfriend might. The pieces slammed together. Elena's wrecked state, the exaggerated emotions, the constant need for drama, the spa treatments chasing a certain look. It wasn't just grief. It was maybe something else. Something she was self-medicating. And Mark, ever the hero, was now her supplier, using my daughter's medicine. The officer left with a copy of the TRO and the log. Will pay Mr. Carter visit. You should consider upgrading your security system. I was on the phone with a security company when Liam burst into the kitchen. His face pale. He's here. What? Who? Dad. He's in the driveway. In his car. Just sitting there. I looked out the front window. Mark's BMW was idling at the curb, just beyond the 500-foot legal boundary. The driver's side window was down. He was staring at the house, his expression unreadable. He can't come closer. The order. I know what the damn order says. Liam snapped, a coiled spring of fury. He's taunting us. He wants us to know he's there. He grabbed his hoodie. I'm going to tell him to leave. Liam. No. Don't go out there. Let the police handle it. I already called them. But he was already yanking open the front door. He took Chloe's medicine. Mom. Her medicine. The door slammed behind him. Liam. I ran after him. But he was already halfway down the driveway. A tall, angry silhouette marching toward the car. Mark saw him coming. He turned off the engine and got out, holding up his hands in a placating gesture. Liam, son, we need to talk. Don't call me that. Liam spat, stopping a few feet from him. You're not allowed here. You need to leave. Now, this is still my house. Too, Mark said, his voice a low growl. And I need to talk to your mother. She's gone too far with this restraining order nonsense. And the police? Really? You stole from us. Liam shouted, his voice cracking. You stole Chloe's cough syrup. What is wrong with you? Is your girlfriend that desperate for a fix? Mark's face flushed a deep, dangerous red. You watch your mouth. You have no idea what you're talking about. Elena is in pain. She's struggling. That medicine was just sitting there. And Chloe was doing better. She wasn't. I yelled, finally reaching them, placing myself slightly in front of Liam. She had a fever last night. You didn't know because you weren't here. You were playing doctor with your doped-up girlfriend. His composure shattered. You shut up. This is all your fault. Your coldness. Your judgment. Your fucking perfect little mother act. You drove me to this. And you, he pointed a shaking finger at Liam. You turned my own son against me. You're poisoning him. I saw the truth. Liam roared, stepping around me. I saw you choose her over and over. I saw you lie. I saw you steal from your own sick kid. You're a pathetic joke. Something in Mark snapped. The carefully constructed facade of the wronged, misunderstood good guy evaporated, revealing the snarling, cornered animal beneath. You ungrateful little shit. He bellowed and took a menacing step forward. Liam didn't back down. He stood his ground, fists clenched. What? You gonna hit me? Go ahead. Give me another reason to never speak to you again. You think you're a man now. Mark sneered, closing the distance. You're a boy, a mama's boy. She's turned you into a weak. Sniveling, Liam shoved him. It wasn't a punch, but a two-handed push to the chest. Born of pure, boiling fury, Mark stumbled back, shocked. Then, with a roar, he lunged. It was chaos. Mark grabbed the front of Liam's hoodie, trying to wrestle him. Liam, taller and fueled by adolescent rage, swung a wild punch that grazed Mark's jaw. They grappled, a tangle of limbs and grunts. stumbling against the side of the BMW with a metallic thud. "Stop it! Stop!" I screamed, trying to get between them, my hands slipping on their jackets. The blare of a siren split the air. A police cruiser, lights flashing, pulled up behind Mark's car. Two officers emerged, hands on their belts. The younger one from earlier was driving. "Break it up. Now." The older cop barked. They were pulled apart. Liam was panting, a trickle of blood from a split lip. Mark's shirt was torn, a red mark blooming on his jaw. He immediately pointed at Liam. "He attacked me. My own son. I was just sitting in my car. He was trespassing and harassing us." I shot back, my voice trembling with adrenaline. "He violated the restraining order. He stole prescription drugs. He assaulted my son. She's lying." Mark yelled. "Look at me. The kid is violent. She's made him this way." The younger officer looked at me, then at the house, then at Mark's car parked precisely at the edge of the legal boundary. He walked over to Mark. "Sir, I responded to a theft report at this residence earlier today. I need you to turn around and place your hands on the roof of your vehicle." "What? This is outrageous. I'm the victim here." "Now." "Sir." Fuming, Mark complied. The pat-down was quick. From the pocket of his jacket, the officer pulled out a small, orange prescription bottle. My grandmother's pearl necklace, tangled, fell to the pavement with a soft clatter. There was a beat of silence. "That's mine." Mark blustered. "She planted that." The officer ignored him, reading the label. "This is prescribed to Brittany Carter. And this," he picked up the necklace, "doesn't look like standard male jewelry." He looked at Liam's bleeding lip, at my terrified face, at Mark's furious one. "Sir, you're under arrest for violation of a domestic violence restraining order, suspicion of burglary, possession of a controlled substance not prescribed to you, and assault. You have the right to remain silent." The words faded into a buzz as they cuffed him. Mark's face was a mask of pure, undiluted hatred, directed solely at me. "You did this," he hissed as they led him to the cruiser. "You'll pay for this. I'll get the kids. You'll end up with nothing." Liam stood beside me, his chest heaving, watching as his father was put in the back of the police car. The fight had drained from him, leaving a hollowed-out shock. I put an arm around his shoulders, pulling him close. He didn't shrug me off. The older officer came over, his notebook out. "We'll need statements from both of you, and we'll add the assault and the theft to the report. Given the TRO violation and the drugs, he won't be making bail tonight. You should be able to get a permanent restraining order easily after this." We gave our statements on the porch, the cold night air sharp in our lungs. After the cops left, the street was silent again. The BMW sat abandoned at the curb. Liam touched his swollen lip. He was really going to hit me, he said quietly, not like a question, but like a fact he was finally accepting. "I know," I said, my heart breaking for the 1,000th time. "Come on, let's get you cleaned up, and let's check on your sister." Inside, the house felt different. The violation was deeper, uglier, but so was the resolve. The line had been irrevocably crossed. It wasn't just about betrayal or neglect anymore. It was about theft. It was about violence. It was about a man so lost to his own narrative that he would attack his son and steal medicine from his sick daughter. As I cleaned Liam's cut, a strange calm settled over me. The public shaming at the gala was one thing. This was another. This was criminal. This was undeniable. Sarah Chun called an hour later. I heard. The police notified me. This is exceptionally good for our case. Exceptionally bad for him. I'll file for the permanent order first thing. And Brittany? Yes? Don't answer the phone if he calls from jail. Let him sit. Let him think. The walls are closing in, and he just helped us build them faster. I looked at Liam, holding an ice pack to his face, and at the baby monitor where Chloe slept soundly, her medicine safely replaced. The walls weren't just closing in on Mark. They were solidifying around us. A fortress we were building together, brick by painful brick. The arraignment was a brief, ugly affair. Mark, wearing a rumpled dress shirt from the night of his arrest, stood before the judge with a public defender. The charges: violation of a restraining order, petty theft, simple assault that were read. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with steel gray hair, listened to the police report about the stolen medication and the physical altercation with Liam. Her mouth tightened into a thin line. Given the violation of a standing protective order, the involvement of a minor child, and the nature of the alleged theft, she said, her voice echoing in the small courtroom, bail is set at $25,000. Furthermore, the temporary restraining order is made permanent and expanded. The defendant is to have no contact, direct or indirect, with the petitioner or the minor children, Chloe and Liam Carter. He is not to come within 1,000 feet of their residence, schools, or places of employment. Is that understood? Mark looked like he'd been slapped. Your Honor, my son attacked me. This is a setup by my vengeful wife. Counsel, the judge said, cutting her eyes to the public defender. Advise your client that his outbursts are not helping his case. Next, he was led away. I sat in the back of the courtroom. Sarah Chinnacom, immovable presence beside me. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The gavel's crack was the sound of a door slamming shut on one part of this nightmare, and another one creaking open. The fallout was immediate and isolating. Mark, from jail, retained a slick, expensive lawyer named Douglas Ford. Ford's opening salvo was a letter to Sarah, carbon copied to me, alleging that I was an unstable, alienating parent who had coached the children into making false allegations and orchestrated a physical confrontation. He demanded immediate, unsupervised visitation and threatened to sue for full custody based on parental alienation. Sarah's response was a single paragraph. We reject your assertions in their entirety and will see you in court. Discovery begins next week. The discovery process was a war of attrition by paperwork. Demand for every email, text, financial record, medical report, and school transcript from the last 5 years. I complied, drowning them in a sea of mundane documents, knowing the damning evidence was buried within. Their demands were more strategic. All my communications with Anya Petrova, with the members of the gala committee, with Liam's friends, they were trying to build a conspiracy theory. We gave them nothing they could use, citing relevance. Through it all, life had to go on. Chloe's elementary school spring fling and third-grade talent show was the biggest event on her calendar. She had been practicing a simple piano piece for weeks. The arrest, the lawyers, the tension, IT had all been kept from her as much as possible. The talent show was her safe harbor, and I was determined to let her have it, which is why, when the email from the school principal arrived, my blood ran cold. Dear parents, we've been made aware of a change in the custodial situation for one of our students. Per a court order filed by Mr. Mark Carter, he is legally permitted to attend school events as a non-custodial parent, provided he maintains a distance of 1,000 feet from the custodial parent, Mrs. Brittany Carter. We are obligated to comply. Security will be present to ensure these boundaries are respected. Sincerely, Principal Higgins. He was using the loophole. The order kept him from the school grounds generally, but not from public events he had a legal right to attend as a parent. His lawyer had found the crack and was wedging himself in. I knew, with a sick certainty, that he wouldn't come alone. This was a play, a public performance of Concerned Father, unjustly barred. I called Sarah. He's going to the talent show. With her. I know it. Sarah sighed. The sound of someone dealing with a persistent, disgusting insect. He's within his rights to attend. The with her part is a gray area. But if she's just another audience member, it's hard to stop. Do you want to keep Chloe home? No, I said. The words sharp and final. She's been through enough. She's playing her song. I won't let him take that from her too. But I'm not walking into an ambush. My next call was to Principal Higgins. I was polite, firm, and invoked every buzzword in the modern parent handbook. Principal Higgins, Brittany Carter, I received your email. While I understand the legal parameters, I have serious concerns about the emotional welfare and physical safety of my children, given the documented assault and theft. I'm formally requesting that security not only monitor distances, but actively prevent any attempt at contact or confrontation. My son, Liam, will be filming the entire event for our family records. To ensure everyone's safety and accountability, I was laying the groundwork. Liam, filming. Was my witness. The family records line was a thin veneer over my real intent, to document whatever stunt they pulled. The day of the show arrived. The school auditorium was a chaos of sequined tutus, nervous parents, and the screech of microphone feedback. Chloe, in her lavender dress, was a knot of excited anxiety backstage. Liam, true to his word, had his phone out, looking more like a war correspondent than a big brother. I scanned the crowded rows, and there they were, near the back, on the opposite side from where I'd strategically seated myself with Anya and her husband, Mark, in a too careful sweater, looking grim, and Elena, beside him, wearing oversized sunglasses and a somber headscarf. The very picture of a woman bravely facing a hostile world. The performance had already begun. I felt Anya tense beside me. The audacity. She muttered. She dresses for a funeral. Her own reputations. Perhaps. The show started. There was a painfully off-key rendition of Let Go, a magic trick that went hilariously wrong, and a boy who attempted to beatbox the periodic table. Through it all, my skin crawled. I could feel Mark's gaze like a physical pressure. Liam's camera lens was a small, comforting eye, panning slowly across the audience, lingering on them every so often. Then it was Chloe's turn. She walked to the little electric keyboard on stage. Her back straight, she found me in the crowd and gave a tiny, wobbly smile. I gave her a thumbs up. The opening notes of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star filled the auditorium. Simple and sweet. She was concentrating so hard, her tongue poking out slightly. She finished to warm. Generous applause. She stood, took a wobbly curtsy, and stepped to the microphone, which had been left at a hilariously tall height for her. The teacher rushed to adjust it, but Chloe just stood on her tiptoes, pulling it down. "Thank you," she said, her little voice amplified. Then she paused, looking not at me, but across the auditorium, right at Mark. I wanted to play that song because, when I was really, really sick with a fever, my mommy tried to make it for me. But my daddy took it and gave it to the lady he likes more than us. A silent, seismic shockwave rolled through the room. The cooing and clapping died instantly. 300 people froze. Chloe, utterly unaware of the bomb she dropped, plowed on with the innocent, brutal logic of a child. So I was hungry, and my mommy was sad, and my brother was mad. My mommy says we have to be kind even when people are mean. So I played a nice song, but I'm still a little bit mad. The end. She gave another quick curtsy and trotted off stage, leaving a silence so profound you could hear the hum of the stage lights. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a cacophony of whispers erupted. Heads swiveled between me and Mark. I kept my eyes on the stage exit, my heart hammering with a fierce, painful pride. I hadn't coached her. I hadn't even known. This was her truth, raw and unfiltered. Then, a movement in the back. Mark was on his feet, his face purple with rage. Elena was pulling on his arm, trying to get him to sit, but he shook her off. He started barreling down the side aisle, not towards the stage, but towards the side door that led backstage. Chloe Elizabeth Carter, you come out here right now." His voice, a bellow of parental authority, cut through the murmurs. That was the trigger. Two security guards, who had been lounging by the exits, snapped to attention. Principal Higgins, her face a mask of horror, rushed from the front row. Liam's camera was locked on the scene. A steady, recording eye. The guards intercepted Mark before he could reach the door. Sir, you need to step back. That's my daughter. She's been coerced. That was parental alienation. I have a right to see her. He tried to shove past them. Sir, stop. The guards grabbed his arms. It wasn't a violent struggle, but it was a physical restraint. In front of everyone. Cell phones were up now. Recording. The talent show was forgotten. Let him go. You're hurting him. Elena shrieked, running down the aisle, her headscarf slipping. He just wants to see his child. What is wrong with you people? From the stage wing, Chloe's teacher, Mrs. Albright, emerged, holding a wide-eyed Chloe by the hand, leading her quickly away from the commotion. Chloe saw the scuffle, saw her father being held by the guards, and burst into tears. That was the final straw for Liam. He stood up, phone still recording. You see, his voice, cracking with teenage fury, wasn't as loud as Mark's, but it carried. You see what he does? He makes her cry. He always makes it worse. Mark saw Liam, saw the phone. You turn that off. You're not allowed to film me. It's a public event. Dad, Liam spat the word. And I'm making a record, like you told me to, for my digital media class. Remember? You said to always document the truth. The sarcasm was scalding. In the chaos, Principal Higgins had reached the knot of people. Mr. Carter, you are causing a disruption. You need to leave the premises immediately, or I will have you escorted out and banned from school property. You can't ban me. I'm her father. Your behavior is frightening the children. Leave. Now. It was at that moment, as the guards began to firmly but politely steer a sputtering, furious Mark towards the exit, that Liam made his move. He walked quickly to the side of the stage, where a bewildered tech student was manning the soundboard for the talent show. Liam leaned in, said something, and handed the boy his phone. What are you doing? I whispered, but Anya put a hand on my arm, her eyes gleaming. The guards had Mark at the main doors. Elena was trailing behind, sobbing dramatically. The audience was a buzzing hive of shock. The next act, a group of kids in tap shoes, huddled in the wing, confused. Then, Liam's voice, clear and cold, came over the auditorium speakers, not from the stage, but from the audio system. It was a recording, a rustling sound. Then Mark's voice, slightly tinny but unmistakable, as if from a phone placed on a table. Mark's recorded voice, a goddamn nightmare. The bitch got a restraining order. Can you believe it? After everything I've done for that family. Elena's voice soft, wheedling. Shoo, my hero. Don't let them get to you. She's just jealous. She's ice cold. You deserve warmth. You deserve to be appreciated. Mark, she's turned Liam against me. My own son. He looks at me like I'm garbage. Elena, he's her creature. They both are. But you have me, and we have a real future. Once this is all over, once you get out from under her thumb. Mark, the lawyer says it's going to be a fight. She's going for everything. The house, the kids, my money. Elena, a soft, cruel laugh, let her try. We have the better story. The unhinged, jealous ex, the poor, grieving widow, and the compassionate man she helped heal. The court will see it. Everyone will. Just be patient. Play the part. The sad, devoted father kept from his children. It's all about the performance. My love. And we're so good at it. Mark, I miss the kids sometimes. Chloe, when she's not pretending to be sick for attention. Elena, voice turning sharp. Mark, don't get sentimental. They're a chain to that old life. To her, think of the money. Think of the freedom. Think of us. In my bed. In our bed. No more sneaking around. We just have to wait her out. She'll crack. They always do. The recording ended with a click. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, it was broken not by whispers, but by a single, guttural scream of pure rage. It came from the back of the auditorium, not from Mark, who stood frozen in the doorway, his face a mask of dawning horror, not from Elena, who had clapped her hands over her mouth. It came from a large, red-faced man in a flannel shirt, who had been sitting a few rows behind them, Rob's older brother, Dave. He was on his feet, pointing a trembling finger at Elena. "You heartless witch!" he roared. "My brother wasn't even cold in the ground, and you're plotting with him? The poor grieving widow." "I'll give you grieving." He started storming up the aisle towards Elena. The guards, now thoroughly out of their depth, released Mark to intercept Dave. Chaos erupted. Parents were grabbing their kids, hustling them out. Someone was crying. Principal Higgins was shouting into a walkie-talkie. In the midst of the bedlam, I saw Mark's eyes meet mine. All the anger was gone, replaced by something worse. A hollow, terrified understanding. He knew the recording was real. He knew it was over. The performance was in ruins. The script shredded, and the audience was booing him off the stage. Elena, seeing Dave bearing down on her, turned and fled out the door, her headscarf falling off completely. Mark, after one last, lost look, stumbled after her. I didn't wait. I pushed through the crowd towards the backstage, where a teacher was holding a sobbing Chloe. I scooped her up, her small body trembling against mine. Liam appeared at my side, taking his phone back from the stunned tech kid with a grim nod. "You got it all?" I asked him quietly. "Every second," he said, his jaw set. The audio came out perfect. I held my daughter close, my son solid beside me, and walked out of the auditorium. Behind us, the Spring Fling Talent show lay in shambles. The echoes of a shattered lie hanging in the air, louder than any applause. The court of public opinion had just reached its verdict, and it was time to make it official. The fallout from the talent show wasn't contained to the school auditorium. It bled out through 100 cell phone videos and breathless retellings, saturating Oak Ridge Valley's digital ecosystem before the last tap shoe had been packed away. For a few hours, the narrative was deliciously chaotic. Did you hear? Mark Carter tried to storm the stage. Chloe said the saddest thing. His brother-in-law showed up. Then, Elena went on the offensive. She chose Facebook, the town square of our suburb. Her post went live at 11 p.m. A classic wall of text sob story, meticulously punctuated with crying emojis. To my Oak Ridge Valley community, my heart is broken, not just from the loss of my beloved Rob, but from the sustained, malicious campaign being waged against me and a good man. I am a widow. I have a son. I have tried to heal, to be strong for Noah. In my darkest moments, a kind neighbor, Mark Carter, offered friendship, nothing more. His wife, Brittany, has twisted this simple kindness into something ugly and profane. She has manipulated her own children, coaching them to say horrible, false things. She orchestrated a humiliating public ambush at a charity event meant for sick children. She had Mark arrested for trying to see his daughter perform at a school function. Tonight, she used her little girl as a pawn, forcing her to utter a crafted, cruel statement on stage, then played a doctored, illegal recording to further her vengeance. My character, my grief, my very right to exist in peace have been shredded. I am now afraid to leave my house. The harassment is constant. I fear for my safety and my son's. This is not what Rob would have wanted. This is not what a community should be. I am sharing my truth because I have nothing left to hide. Please, I beg you, stop the hate. See through the lies. Hashtag widow shaming. Hashtag grief is not a crime. Hashtag I stand with Mark. It was a masterclass in Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. The comments section, initially, was a minefield. The usual chorus of thoughts and prayers. And stay strong, Mama, was there, but so were voices of doubt, stirred by the talent show videos. But I saw the security footage. The little girl seemed so genuine. What about the medicine? The battle for the narrative was live, and I had no intention of ceding the digital high ground. I didn't post in the comments. I didn't engage. I went silent for 24 hours, letting her post simmer, letting the Team Elena and Team Britney factions solidify in private texts. I spent that time with Sarah Chun and Liam. The three of us holed up in my home office like a war council. We hit back with facts, Sarah advised. Chronology, receipts, no emotion, just the timeline. We need visuals. Liam said, his teenage understanding of media sharper than any lawyer's. People don't read. They scroll. We need pictures, screenshots, the text, the bank charge, the security still. Short, punchy. We crafted the post together. It wasn't a wall of text. It was a strategic missile. I created a simple graphic using a free design website. A clean, white background. At the top, in elegant script, a timeline of truth. Then, in a single, vertical column, February 12th, 2:17 p.m., HOA security image of Mark using a key to enter Elena's home. Caption, while claiming to be at work. March 5th, screenshot of text. Can't wait to see you tonight. My beta told. Exo caption, the friendship. March 12th, close-up of credit card statement. Serenity Day Spa. $385.00 caption. Marital funds used for her grief support. March 20th, photo of Chloe, asleep. A thermometer reading 102.9 degrees Fahrenheit visible on her bedside table. Caption, the night the Just Friendship meal, made for this child, was delivered next door. April 5th, photo of the police report case, number for theft of prescription medication. Caption, stolen from his sick daughter's bathroom. April 10th, screenshot of the permanent restraining order header. Caption, granted by the court, not by me. At the very bottom, in small, simple text, I wrote, this isn't about shaming anyone. It's about correcting a false narrative being used to manipulate our community and justify the betrayal of a family. My only goal is the safety and well-being of my children. They are, and always have been, my only priority. Thank you to the real friends who have offered support without needing to be asked. I didn't tag Elena. I didn't use her name. I didn't use hashtags. I posted it to my own Facebook, set to public. Then, I waited. The reaction was volcanic. The graphic was clean, undeniable, and shareable. It spread through Oak Ridge Valley like a data wildfire. The Team Elena camp floundered. How do you argue with a time-stamped security photo, a bank statement, a police report number? The comments on my post were a flood of support. But more importantly, the private messages began. Women from the school, from the neighborhood, from the gym, women I barely knew, reached out. Britney, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. That bitch tried to hit on my husband at the pool last summer. She owes money to half the contractors in town. The grieving widow just put in a new pool. And then, Cynthia Banks, the gala chair, created a private Facebook group. She invited me, Anya, and a dozen other influential community moms. She named it Oak Ridge Valley Children's Advocates, private. The first post was from Cynthia. Ladies, we've all seen the evidence. This is no longer about gossip. This is about protecting children from manipulation and holding adults accountable for their actions. Brittany's children have been through enough. Let's show them what this community really stands for. No public drama. Quiet. Firm support. Who's in? They were in. The Team Britney network mobilized with terrifying suburban efficiency. They were lawyers, marketers, PR executives, and professional organizers. They didn't post on Facebook. They acted. One, a marketing director, knew someone at the local paper. A bland, factual article appeared in the community section. Local custody dispute highlights issue of parental alienation claims. It quoted legal experts saying such claims were often used as a litigation tactic and that courts increasingly look for evidence of tangible harm, not just disagreement. Another, married to a board member at the country club. Let it be known that Mark and Elena's memberships were under review for conduct unbecoming. But Liam, my fierce, digital native son, had his own operation. He tried to get you fired from being our mom. He said, eyes cold on his laptop screen. Let's see how he likes his job. Mark worked as a mid-level sales director at a large, image-conscious tech firm called Synergon. Liam crafted an email. It was a work of art, anonymous, professional, and deadly. It came from a newly created Proton Mail account. 2. HR@Synergon.com. Subject: Concerning conduct of employee Mark Carter, potential PR risk. Dear Synergon HR Department, I am writing anonymously as a concerned member of the Oak Ridge Valley community. One of your employees, Mark Carter, Director, Regional Sales, is currently involved in a very public and scandalous divorce and custody battle. Court documents and local news reports detail allegations of adultery, misuse of company time as evidenced by attached security footage timestamped during work hours, diversion of marital funds, and a recent arrest for violating a domestic violence restraining order and theft of prescription medication. This situation is generating significant negative local media attention and active discussion on community social media platforms. Where Synergon is named as Mr. Carter's employer, his conduct as a representative of your company may pose a reputational risk. Relevant documentation and news links are attached for your review. Sincerely, a concerned citizen. He attached the HOA still, the news article, and a link to the public court docket listing the charges. He showed it to me before sending it. It's all true, he said, a challenge in his eyes. And it's all public record. I'm just curating it for them. I felt a pang. This was my son, learning to wield a knife. But the man who had taught him to throw a baseball was now teaching him this. I nodded. Send it. The response from Synergon was swift. Mark was placed on administrative leave, pending an internal investigation 2 days later. His company phone and laptop were remotely locked. His income, already strained by legal fees and my temporary support, flatlined. The financial noose tightened. The social ostracization was complete. But the killing blow came from an unexpected quarter. 3 days after my Facebook post, a new comment appeared on Elena's original, weeping wall of text. It was from an account under the name Dave Miller, Rob's brother. Elena, you have some nerve. What Rob would have wanted. Rob wanted a wife who wasn't texting other men while he was working overtime to pay for that house you demanded. Rob wanted a partner, not a performance artist. We all knew about the affairs. The one with the tennis pro. The one with your life coach. He stayed for Noah. He died of a broken heart. And you used it for sympathy and a new pool. You didn't want his things because they were too painful. You sold them to pay off your credit cards. The U-Haul took them to my garage, where I've been sorting through my brother's life. Reading the journal you never knew he kept. He knew about Mark Carter too. He wrote about seeing his car in your driveway in January. He called him the latest in a long line of vultures circling a shallow grave. So stop. Stop using my brother's name. Stop pretending to grieve. You're just embarrassed you got caught. The community sees you for what you are. We all do. Dave, it was the detonation of her core myth. The grieving widow was exposed by her own former family as a serial cheater and a gold digger. The comments on her post, which had been a mix of support and skepticism, turned into a unified roar of condemnation. Even her thoughts and prayers. Brigade fell silent, digitally abandoning a sinking ship. That night, I got a notification. Elena had deactivated her Facebook account. The white flag raised in the digital dusk. I sat in the quiet of my living room, the blue light of my phone fading. The social media war was over. We had bombed her narrative back to the Stone Age. Mark was unemployed and a social pariah. The community had chosen a side. Decisively, Liam came down for water. She deleted everything. He said, a note of hollow victory in his voice. She did. What now? Now, I said, looking at the quiet street outside. We get ready for the only court that matters. The one with the judge and the bailiff. The court of law is all that's left. The silence in Oak Ridge County Family Court was a physical thing, thick and cold, broken only by the hum of the HVAC and the scratch of a court reporter's pen. It was a different silence from the gala or the talent show. This was procedural, final. The air smelled of lemon polish and suppressed rage. I sat at the petitioner's table with Sarah Chin, a stack of neatly labeled binders between us. Across the aisle, Mark sat with his lawyer, Douglas Ford, a man with a tan that spoke of golf courses and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mark looked thinner, older. The confidence he'd worn like a suit replaced by a stiff. Hunted tension. Elena was not at the table. She was in the public gallery, several rows back, wearing a severe black dress, trying and failing to look like a dignified observer rather than a participant. Judge Wilkins presided, the woman in her 60s with a brisk, no-nonsense demeanor and reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. She looked like she had zero tolerance for drama. Perfect. We're here on the matter of Carter versus Carter. She began, her voice dry. Petition for dissolution of marriage, determination of custody, child support, and division of assets. Counsel, your opening statements. Keep them brief. Mr. Ford? Ford stood, oozing sincerity. Thank you, Your Honor. This is, at its heart, a tragic case of parental alienation. My client, Mark Carter, is a dedicated father and provider who finds himself unjustly vilified by a wife who cannot accept the end of their marriage. Mrs. Carter has engaged in a systematic campaign to poison the minds of their children against their father, using manufactured drama, edited recordings, and public humiliation. She has isolated him, cost him his job, and now seeks to sever the sacred father-child bond entirely. We will show that Mark Carter desires only a meaningful relationship with his children, Liam and Chloe, and that the allegations against him are distortions created by a vengeful spouse. We ask for shared legal and physical custody, and an equitable division of assets. He sat. Sarah didn't stand. She merely adjusted her glasses. Your Honor, the only poison in this home was Mr. Carter's betrayal and neglect. The evidence will show a pattern of deceit, financial infidelity, and a conscious choice to prioritize his affair partner over the welfare of his sick child. The campaign was his. The manufactured drama was his double life. We will demonstrate that the only alienation occurred when Mr. Carter left his daughter's bedside to deliver her meal to another woman, and when he chose to attack his son in their driveway rather than take responsibility. Mrs. Carter seeks to protect her children from further harm. We ask for sole legal and physical custody, the marital residence, and appropriate support. Proceed. Ms. Chin, Judge Wilkins said, her expression unreadable. Sarah began methodically dismantling Mark's world. She entered exhibits into evidence with the calm efficiency of a surgeon making incisions. The HOA security photo, the spa receipt, the bank statements, the police report for the stolen medication, the permanent restraining order. Each was displayed on a monitor for the court to see. Ford objected on relevance. On hearsay, Judge Wilkins overruled him. The financial records and legal documents are directly relevant to character and conduct. Counselor, continue. Then came the witness, our pediatrician, Dr. Alvarez, testified to Chloe's high fever and the prescribed cough syrup. It was a potent narcotic cough suppressant. essential for allowing rest. Its theft would have caused the child unnecessary suffering. Ford's cross was weak. Doctor, you can't say for certain Mr. Carter took it. The police report indicates it was missing after he accessed the home against a court order. The causation is reasonable. Then, Sarah played the audio. Your Honor, we offer petitioners Exhibit 14. An audio recording recovered from the minor child Liam Carter's phone, dated March 25th. Ford was on his feet. Objection. This is an illegal recording. A violation of privacy. It's inadmissible. Sarah didn't blink. Your Honor, this is a one-party consent state. The recording was made by my client's son, Liam Carter, a party to the conversation, in his own home, where he had a reasonable expectation of recording for his own security, given the volatile situation. Furthermore, it goes directly to the issue of parental intent and alienation. Specifically, the respondent's intent to manipulate the court and alienate the children from their mother. Judge Wilkins peered over her glasses. I'll hear it. Overruled. The sterile courtroom filled with the intimate, damning sound of Mark and Elena's voices. Mark's recorded voice. A goddamn nightmare. The bitch got a restraining order. Elena's voice. She's ice cold. You deserve warmth. Mark. She's turned Liam against me. My own son. Elena. He's her creature. They both are. Elena. The unhinged, jealous ex. The poor, grieving widow and the compassionate man she helped heal. The court will see it. Everyone will. Just be patient. Play the part. Mark. I miss the kid sometimes. Chloe. When she's not pretending to be sick for attention. Elena. Voice sharp. Mark. Don't get sentimental. They're a chain to that old life. Think of the money. Think of the freedom. Think of us. We just have to wait her out. She'll crack. They always do. Click. The silence that followed was profound. Mark had buried his face in his hands. Elena, in the gallery, had gone sheet white, for it looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Judge Wilkins removed her glasses, polishing them slowly. The recording is admitted into evidence, she said, her voice like gravel. Ms. Chin, call your next witness. The petitioner calls Liam Carter. Liam walked to the stand, sworn in, his back straight. Sarah led him gently through the events. The missing food, the fight in the driveway, the discovery of the stolen medicine, the night of the talent show. His answers were clear, blunt, and devastating. Why did you start recording things, Liam? Sarah asked. Because he kept lying, Liam said, looking directly at his father, who wouldn't meet his gaze. He'd say one thing to us, and do another. I needed proof. For me. So I wouldn't start thinking I was crazy. And the conversation in the recording. Why did you record that? He came over to get some things. He was in the kitchen with her. Liam nodded toward the gallery, whispering. They thought I was upstairs. I hit record on my phone and left it on the counter. I wanted to know what they were really saying about us, about my mom. Ford's cross-examination was a disaster. He tried to paint Liam as a brainwashed pawn. Your mother has filled your head with hatred, hasn't she? Son, I'm not your son, Liam said, icy calm. And my mother filled my head with the truth. You just heard it on the tape. He's the one who called me her creature. He's the one who said my little sister was pretending to be sick for attention. My mom just showed me the evidence. I can see for myself. No further questions, Ford muttered. The final witness was the court-appointed child psychologist, Dr. Evans. Her testimony was clinical and brutal. Chloe exhibits anxiety centered on abandonment and illness, directly correlating to the incidents described. Liam displays a protective stance far beyond his years, consistent with experiencing a parent as unreliable and hostile. Mr. Carter's actions prioritizing the needs of an unrelated adult over his acutely ill child. The verbal disparagement of the children's genuine needs as captured on the recording. The physical confrontation with Liam demonstrate a profound failure of parental judgment and a prioritization of his own needs, and his relationship with Ms. Elena Miller. This has caused significant emotional harm. In my opinion, it is in the children's best interest to remain primarily in the stable. Protective custody of Mrs. Carter, with any visitation for Mr. Carter to be strictly supervised and contingent upon intensive therapy. Ford had nothing. The case was crumbling. When it was his turn, Ford called Mark to the stand. It was a Hail Mary. Mark, shorn of his bluster, tried to explain. He talked about stress, about misunderstandings, about how Elena was vulnerable and he was just trying to help. He claimed the recording was edited, that his words were taken out of context. Sarah's cross-examination was pitiless. So, when you said Chloe was pretending to be sick for attention on the recording, what was the context we're missing? Mr. Carter? I was frustrated. Elena was upset. I didn't mean it. You just said it. In the privacy of the home you abandoned. To the woman you were having an affair with? That's the context. Your private, unfiltered opinion of your daughter's illness? Objection. Ford barked. Sustained. Answer the question. Mr. Carter. The judge said, I didn't mean it. Mark repeated, weaker. When you diverted $385 from your joint marital account to pay for Ms. Miller's facial and Botox treatment, was that also a misunderstanding? She was depressed. It was a pick-me-up. While your wife was using her own money to buy Tylenol and tissues for your feverish child. Understood. Sarah let the barb sink in. No further questions. It was over. We all knew it. The judge knew it. Even Ford's shoulders slumped in defeat. But Elena couldn't stand it. As Sarah returned to our table, Elena stood up in the gallery. Your Honor, this is a travesty. He's a good man. She's a liar. That boy is twisted. Judge Wilkins's gavel cracked once, sharp as a gunshot. You, sit down. You are not a party to these proceedings. One more word, and I will have you removed for contempt of court. A bailiff took a step toward her. Elena sank back into her seat, trembling with impotent fury. Judge Wilkins shuffled her papers. Based on the evidence presented that the financial malfeasance, the neglectful and harmful conduct toward the minor children, the intentional infliction of emotional distress, the violation of court orders, and most damningly, the recorded conversation which reveals a concerted effort to manipulate these proceedings and a callous disregard for the children's well-being, this court finds it is in the best interest of the minor children, Liam and Chloe Carter, to be placed in the sole legal and physical custody of the petitioner, Brittany Carter. She began reading the orders. Mark was granted supervised visitation, 1 4-hour session every other Saturday at a family center, contingent upon him completing a year of parental counseling and anger management. He was ordered to pay 40% of his net income in child and spousal support. The marital residence was awarded to me. Free and clear, the retirement accounts were split 70/30ths in my favor. He was ordered to pay my attorney's fees. With each clause, Mark seemed to shrink. When the judge finally said, dissolution of marriage is granted, it was less a pronouncement than a ratification of a death that had occurred months ago, over a pot of stolen chicken soup. The gavel fell one last time. Court is adjourned. I didn't look at Mark. I didn't look at Elena. I stood, my legs steady. Sarah gave my arm a brief, firm squeeze. It's done. Liam was already at the railing, waiting for me. I walked out of the courtroom, my son beside me, the weight of the law now a shield at my back, not a sword hanging over my head. The battle was over. We had won, not just the house or the money. We had won the right to our own truth and the peace to live inside it. The first hammer strike on the old kitchen wall felt like a heartbeat, a strong, new, defiant rhythm. 6 months after the divorce was final, the renovation began. I didn't just paint over the memories. I demolished them. The countertops where I'd wept over stolen soup were ripped out. The cabinets that held the ghost of missing medicine were dismantled. In their place, I designed a kitchen of light and air, with a huge farmhouse sink and a 6-burner stove. It was a kitchen for us, for birthday cakes and science projects, for midnight snacks and pancake Saturdays. No ghosts allowed. The biggest change was the porch. I extended it, wrapping it around the side of the house, adding a cedar pergola for dappled shade. It overlooked the backyard, not Elena's house. She'd moved out 2 months prior. The for sale sign on her lawn, a quiet admission of defeat. The porch became our outdoor room, my sanctuary. Liam found me there one May morning, a week before his high school graduation, holding a thick envelope. The early sun caught the dust motes in the air. He looked so much older, the last remnants of boyish softness sanded away by the hard year, replaced by a quiet strength. Mail came, he said, handing me the envelope. It was from the state university. His top choice. Aren't you going to open it? I asked, my heart in my throat. I already checked online last night. I got in. Early admission. Full ride. The Chancellor's scholarship. He said it so casually, but his eyes were shining. I threw my arms around him, the envelope crumpling between us. Liam, oh my God, a full ride? Why didn't you lead with that? I was laughing, crying. He hugged me back, a solid, warm presence. I wanted to see your face. He pulled back, a grin breaking through. The essay was about resilience. I wrote about Chloe and you. I didn't use names, but yeah, prize swelled in my chest. So fierce it was almost painful. They're lucky to have you. Graduation day was a spectacle of green robes and proud tears. Liam, to no one's surprise, was the class valedictorian. As he stood at the podium, squinting in the sun, I held Chloe's hand tightly. Mark was there, in the very back row of the bleachers, alone. He had a right to be there. The court order allowed it for major life events. With distance, it felt strange, seeing him as a speck, irrelevant to the moment. Liam cleared his throat, his voice carrying clear and strong over the crowd. They tell you high school is about finding yourself. He began. For me, it was about learning what I'm made of, and what my family is made of. I learned that real strength isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about showing up. It's about making soup for someone who's sick, and guarding the door when they're sleeping. It's about telling the truth, even when your voice shakes. He paused, looking directly at our section. I owe my resilience to 2 women. My little sister, Chloe, who has the biggest heart of anyone I know. She teaches me that kindness isn't weakness. It's the bravest choice of all. Chloe beamed, squeezing my hand. And my mom, his voice softened, just for us, who taught me that sometimes building a new door is better than beating on a broken one. That protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's survival. And that the most powerful legacy you can leave isn't money or a name, but the unshakable knowledge in your kids that they are loved, they are safe, and they are home. Thank you. The applause was thunderous. I didn't even try to stop the tears. They were for the boy he was, and the man he was becoming, forged in a fire he never should have had to face. The following Saturday was the Oak Ridge Elementary Young Chef's Competition. Chloe, now a vibrant, fearless 9-year-old, had entered. Her chosen dish, Get Better chicken noodle soup, with cloud cake desserts. The school cafeteria was set with little cooking stations. I stood with the other parents, a knot of nerves. Anya appeared at my elbow, handing me a coffee. She will win, she stated, as if commenting on the weather. Just finishing is a win, I said, but I was praying her broth was perfect. Chloe worked with a solemn focus, chopping softened carrots with a safe knife, shredding the roast chicken we'd prepared together. She made the simple dough for noodles, rolling it out with a small pin. When it came time to season the broth, she didn't measure. She tasted, her small face serious, then added a pinch of salt. a twist of pepper. She was not just following a recipe, she was remembering a feeling. When the judges tasted, their eyebrows went up. One, a local restaurateur, smiled. Now, that's got love in it, he said. They awarded her third place overall, and a special blue ribbon. Judge's choice, most comforting dish. She ran to me, ribbon held high, her face alight with pure, uncomplicated joy. I made it just like you do. Mommy! I knelt and hugged her, the scent of thyme and broth in her hair. You made it better. Sweet pea, you made it yours. The invitation for the neighborhood summer potluck came from Cynthia Banks. The memo line read, "No agenda, just good food and better company. Please bring a dish." It was held in Cynthia's backyard, strung with fairy lights. It felt different from the stiff gala. This was easy, loud, and real. I brought a giant pasta salad. Anya brought terrifyingly spicy kebabs. People I hadn't spoken to in a year came over, not with pity, but with normalcy. How's Liam liking college? Chloe's ribbon is on our fridge. The conversation was about vacations and bad movies and the new hiking trails. The past was a shadow acknowledged but not fed. Halfway through the evening, Cynthia clinked a glass. I just wanted to say thank you for showing up, for being neighbors who actually help. You know, by borrowing a cup of sugar, or collecting mail, or just not being awful. A warm, knowing laugh rippled through the crowd. This is what it's supposed to be. So, dig in. And Brittany? She smiled at me. Your pasta salad is legendary. Recipe. Please. It was a quiet, complete restoration. Not as a victim or a victor, but as a person, as a neighbor. A few mornings later, in the deep, quiet blue of pre-dawn, I couldn't sleep. I made coffee and stepped out onto the new porch. The cedar smelled of dew and summer. The first birds were tentatively testing the silence. I sat in the comfortable Adirondack chair, the one I'd stained myself, and watched the sky lighten from indigo to peach to a clear, pale gold. The house behind me was quiet, full of the deep, even breathing of my sleeping children. Safe, whole. The sliding glass door whispered open. Chloe padded out, her hair a crazy halo, clutching her worn unicorn. She climbed into my lap without a word, tucking her feet under my robe. I wrapped my arms around her, breathing in the sleepy child scent of her. A few minutes later, Liam emerged, hair tousled, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate he'd made. He handed one to Chloe, then settled into the chair next to mine, stretching his long legs out. We sat in a comfortable silence, the 3 of us, watching the sun crest the roof of the house that was truly, finally, ours. The light spilled across the new porch boards, warm and clean. Chloe sipped her cocoa, then leaned her head against my chest. "This is better than a castle," she murmured. Half asleep, Liam took a sip, a quiet smile on his face. "Yeah," he said, "it is." I held my daughter, looked at my son, and felt the solid wood of the porch beneath me. Built to last. There was no dramatic finale. No final blow. Just this. The quiet hum of the refrigerator from inside. The chirp of a cardinal. The weight of my child in my arms. And the limitless promise of a plane. Simple. Perfectly real morning. We don't need a fairy tale. I said softly, more to myself than to them. We have this. And it was everything.